Imagine spending millions of dollars trying to slow the aging process. But in the process, you start looking less like a resilient human and more like a fragile vampire who wouldn't last a day in the wild without globalization's luxuries. Enter Bryan Johnson, a man who has devoted his life and wallet to anti-aging, yet whose regimen leaves me scratching my head. Bryan's efforts to push the boundaries of human longevity are commendable. I'm all for using data, and science to improve health outcomes. He has achieved impressive control over some biomarkers like inflammation levels and glucose stability, which are undeniably linked to better health outcomes. However, his approach, a plant-based diet, avoiding natural sunlight, and taking a laundry list of supplements, sounds more like a science experiment than a sustainable lifestyle. So let's break it down. Trying to outsmart nature is nothing new, but let's be honest, it has never really worked. Humans thrive when they work with nature, not against it. Sunlight, for example, is vital for vitamin D production, circadian rhythm regulation. While Bryan might avoid it to reduce skin aging, I'd rather embrace the full benefits of sunlight, from improved mood to a stronger immune system, while supporting my skin health with a proper diet, good sleep hygiene, and maybe even topical supplements like OneSkin. This way, I enjoy the best of both worlds without compromising my overall health. And then there is the diet. Humans evolved to eat animals. Protein from animal sources is complete, bioavailable, and packed with nutrients like B12, iron, and zinc that plants can't compete with. And Bryan's resilience on lentils, peas, and hemp and other plant-based foods, laden with anti-nutrients and phytoestrogens, is far from ideal, in my opinion. In fact, studies show that excessive consumption of plant estrogens can impact hormonal balance. And in Bryan's case, it seems these dietary choices might be contributing to the feminization of his physique. And I leave the wilderness survival test as a thought experiment with you. Now, here are specific examples where I think Bryan's approach falls short. Number one, avoiding natural sunlight. Instead of using a mirror in the morning to kind of mimic and try to influence your circadian rhythm, why just not go out in the sun? While his skin might appear younger, avoiding sunlight entirely can lead to vitamin D deficiencies, especially, if you don't try to prop all of that up with synthetic supplements. And that is then linked to weakened bones, poor immunity, and even mental health issues. Supplements can't fully replicate the synergistic benefits of natural sunlight, no matter how hard you try. Number two, plant-based diet. While plants have their place, no argument about that. Relying on them exclusively is a gamble. For example, soy-based foods contain anti-nutrients like phytates, which can inhibit the absorption of key minerals. Animal-based diets, on the other hand, provide these nutrients in forms our body evolved to utilize efficiently. All of the benefits, none of the downsides if you consume a predominantly animal-based diet. And number three, and that is, I think, by far the greatest issue that I see with Bryan's approach, is the over-reliance on supplements. If you have to prop up your lifestyle with synthetic supplements, something is wrong. Bryan's supplement stack might include dozens of pills and powders to plug all of those potential gaps in his diet. But here's the thing, supplements are just that, a supplement, not a replacement for real nutrient-dense food. They often lack the cofactors and complexity of whole foods that make nutrients bioavailable to humans. But let's compare some of without going into a pissing contest obviously, let's compare some of Bryan's key biomarkers to my own to see how our different approaches stack up. And arguably, one of the most impressive biomarkers that Bryan has is his Dunedin Pace Score, which is a measure of biological aging speed. And it's also an interesting indicator, assuming that the science as we understand it is true. It's an overall indicator of health and longevity. And Bryan's score is reportedly 0.76. That means for every year that he chronologically ages, his biological age only advances by 0.76. So if you had a score of 1, that means every chronological year you would age a biological year. His is 0.76. So he ages significantly slower than the average, than his chronological age might suggest. And that's a great result indicating his aging process is slower than average, right? My score is 0.87, which is still well below the average of 1.0. Well, but his number is better, But here's the thing, I achieved that. I age slower every year without any of the extreme measures and relying propping basically up my lifestyle with something that's unsustainable. If there is a supply chain interruption, all of what he does falls apart basically. His second marker that I picked out is C-reactive protein, or CRP. It's a marker of inflammation, and lower numbers are better, assuming that our understanding of CRP and inflammation are correct. And both Bryan and I have a CRP of 0.2, reflecting very low levels of systemic inflammation. But once again, I maintain this result through a natural, sustainable lifestyle that doesn't require avoiding sunlight or relying on a plant-based diet. And number 3 is fasting insulin. This is critical for metabolic health and insulin sensitivity. And Bryan's fasting insulin is reportedly 2.6, which is a good number. But my fasting insulin, however, is lower at 1.8, showing excellent metabolic efficiency. Now again, this is all achieved through a nutrient-dense animal-based diet and regular physical activity. And again, assuming that lower is better. I don't necessarily prescribe to the idea that lower or higher is always better based on those biomarkers. But if you want to compare side by side, this is it. So the bottom line here is, and again, we just looked at 3 out of the many, many biomarkers. He tracks significantly more than I do. And I just want to say that his biomarkers are certainly impressive, no question about that. But my results highlight that it's possible to achieve similar, and in some cases even better health outcomes with a nature-aligned lifestyle, I should say. You don't need an extreme regimen to thrive. You don't need a boatload of dietary supplements and powders and spend a lot of money on it. You just have to live with nature. Nature's blueprint for health has been refined over millions of years. Modern interventions are less proven. One area where Bryan and I see eye to eye is sleep, or the importance of sleep. Good sleep is the foundation for longevity, recovery, and mental clarity. No question about that. And he prioritizes a consistent bedtime and uses cutting-edge tech to track his sleep patterns and do a bunch of other things to, optimize his sleep. And I applaud that focus because sleep is incredibly important to me as well. I enjoy tracking my sleep, and I even use some of the gadgets, like bed cooling system, to optimize or help optimize my sleep. But I try whenever possible to stick to predominantly to nature's playbook. No fancy gadgets or over-the-top routines, just consistent sleep hygiene, minimal blue light exposure in the evenings, and embracing the natural rhythms of day and night. And that includes sunlight in the morning. To wrap it up, Bryan's story is a fascinating one, but it's also a cautionary tale. When you try to hack your way to health, you risk losing sight of what's sustainable, natural, and effective. Humans thrived for millennia without supplements, tofu, or biohacking gadgets. Our ancestors relied on nutrient-dense foods, sunlight, movement, and sleep, the same pillars I prioritize in my own life. So instead of trying to outsmart nature, why not work with it? That's been my strategy, and it's one I'll continue to follow for as long as possible. Real food, natural movement, and exposure to the elements may not be as glamorous as the $1 million regimen, but they've stood the test of time. But let me know, what do you think? Can modern science beat nature's blueprint, or are we just fooling ourselves? I'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a comment and let me know. I'd love to hear what you think.